What's up, guys? Welcome back to Dad's Little Warriors Dad Talk, man. And this is season 3. We're getting some awesome dads on here. So today, I'm super excited. I found Wes out on TikTok, and he runs the Dad Compass. And I haven't had a dad on here yet that's actually trying to do something similar to what we're doing and everything. So I'm super excited to have him on, man. I want to learn about Wes. I want to learn about the Dad Compass. I want to know it all, man. So welcome Wes in, and let's get this thing rolling.
Yeah, man. Big shout out to you and what you're doing, man. Thank you so much for reaching out, and thank you for having me on. It's really an honor to be here, man, and I definitely appreciate you taking the time to rock this with me just as much as I am with you.
Dude, when I seen your stuff, I love it because, it is like raw and real. Like me and Wes jumped on a little bit of a phone call yesterday, mainly to make sure I'm changing platforms. Hopefully I look a little better than I did in the other ones. But Wes was cool enough, man, to jump on, and we kind of had to cut ourselves because we started getting into shit that, we wanted to say for the podcast, and we started diving into stuff, man. And, I know you're a dad, dude. I know you got a couple kids and all that stuff.
Yeah, man. I have 4 kids. I got 3 boys and a daughter. That's everyone's reaction. It's always, man, and I'm just like, you know what? It is a lot, but it's the best thing in the world. It really is.
No doubt, man.
And what an honor it is to do this every single day. And I'm just blessed that, been able to have 4 kids with my wife. And luckily, everything's been healthy. She had some health issues, the last 2, man, but I really am blessed to be able to do this. And Manta, I know you're eager to kind of hear, I guess, how the Dad Compass got started. So we can kind of dive into that a little bit, and I'll kind of give you the backstory if you're good with that, essentially.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
And then we'll just rock and roll. But so my wife and I, when we got married, it was literally a month after we got married, and we found out we were pregnant. And it was fast. We didn't skip a beat, obviously.
Wow.
And our living situation, we were living in an apartment, and financially, just where we didn't need to be. We were immature in different ways, and just really weren't set up, at least from a solidified standpoint. And then once we found out we were pregnant, obviously to start saving money and to get in a better point, her parents had offered us to live with them.
Nice,
and
man.
I'm super grateful for that. But that comes with its
still
own,
a lot, dude.
Yeah,
It
it still
does.
comes with its own thing. And so that was really tough. To just balance the dynamic of that, of living, with your in-laws, and then trying to financially figure we were out. And then and I'm sure once we dive in into the podcast, we'll talk a little more of the personal side, but essentially I really struggled. Marriage is its own thing, but I really struggled stepping into fatherhood. I didn't really have the exact modeling character. I didn't know what being a proactive dad really looked like.
There's no book on this shit. I mean, you can try to read whatever you want to read.
Even if you have, I feel like even if you come from a pretty good place, like you maybe have a head start, but you don't know until you're in the middle of it. You know what I mean? Like until your kids are here, until you have that baby, that newborn, it's a whole different world. You can plan all you want. You can try to buy whatever books and all that stuff, but until you're actually in the midst of it, it's tough. But it was really hard. My wife and I, we were dealing with personal things, just trying to grow as individuals. And so the stress of that, I was 25, I think. Yeah. So I was 25. That still wasn't where I needed to be, but it was a lot to balance our living situation, financials, and then the pressure of having a baby, having a newborn, and it was a lot. I think personally, I just struggled. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to step into that, and I know we'll dive more into it as this thing goes. But fast forward, I kind of reached a breaking point of where I realized that something needed to change, and I needed to get a grip on myself personally, but also too there was so much more to this than to just bringing home a paycheck. There was so much more to just keeping feeding the kid and keeping it clothed and everything else, and so that's several years of just really dialing into myself and embracing fatherhood and just learning to step into that. And I realized once I got to a certain point, probably about 2 years ago, just how not only beneficial it was for me, but I know so many other dads out there are just, they're throwing darts at a dartboard, man, hoping they hit something good. And so that's essentially why I created this thing, to just encourage and help dads really step into this role and embrace it. You know, it's so much more than providing and protecting. I know the 2 a.m. sitting alone is real. The 2 a.m. contemplating everything that you're doing, doubting yourself, eating
Life,
yourself.
dude.
Yeah. So I mean that weight, especially late at night when you're by yourself, man. But it's I think it's so important, and big kudos again for what you're doing here, man. And hopefully we can keep encouraging people in general, but let alone dads, to just know that, like, you don't have to carry this alone. You know, you don't have to have these battles and try to figure things out alone. Reach out, and because everyone's a lifeline if you allow them to be. And I think one thing I tell a lot of people in general is more people care about you than you think. And it's hard, man. As men, we're stubborn, and I think reaching out seems like weakness, but at the same time, I think there's true power in being vulnerable and being able to reach out to other men and other dads who want to lift you up and help you.
Yep, and I say it in pretty much every video, almost every podcast and everything like that, man, is just breaking that stigma of dudes feeling like, weaker because they want to talk about stuff. You don't have to sit there and bitch about stuff or ask for a pity party or nothing like that, man. It's just chopping the shit up.
Yeah.
Like listening, dude. Like I can't explain it any better than just that. Like, somebody to listen to, somebody to hear you out. You don't always need an answer. There's not always an answer anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just people listening and understanding. And that's kind of part of the medical side. Like I was kind of telling you before, this Dad's Little Words is not solely about medical dads, medical kids, anything like that. But that part of the Dad's Little Warriors is it's not common to have like dads that deal with medical situations and stuff. And for those guys to be able to kind of relate and get some shit off their chest, it's huge,
Yeah.
And then on the other side of things, you have your daily, we talked about dad guilt. You know, like I had that shit heavy. I think every dad that cares, you know what I mean, has some sort of kind of dad guilt, and it's real. That shit hits you hard. You think you're not doing enough. You want to be around more. You can't be around more because you're providing financially for the family. That shit's deep, man. That shit can get rough.
Yeah, I think to kind of piggyback from what you're saying too. It's sometimes you'll get the kind of busting balls things with your dude friends, but at the end of the day, if you genuinely are in a position where you need help, man, like they got you. I don't think speaking about it again is more powerful. And then too, that's going to transpire in everything. There's nothing weak about, I know if I vent about this or just talk to someone I can trust, you're going to feel fresh. You're going to be like, all right, that weight's off me. I'm going to kind of unpack the backpack a little bit. And then boom, you're staying good on the path of, being a good dad and providing and going to work, doing what you need to do because you're taking the time to get that stuff off your chest, man. And a lot of times that's all we need. We just need a place to like, here's what's going on. Boom. All right. Well, wow, I feel better, and that's my wife and I talk all the time about how we don't want, I mean, once you hit that, you'll kind of see how it goes. But we at least have this idea that, if our kids make a decision or something and they're out, and whether they're drinking or they do something dumb, like the last thing I want them to do is like, oh God, my parents can't find out about this.
Yeah, man.
I want them to say, no, I'm in a situation. And it's like, I'll come pick you up. No questions asked. We'll talk about it in the morning,
Yep. Yeah.
And that's the parent I want to be, I want to be disciplined and, pretty tough on them in a healthy way, but
Sure.
at the same time, like I never
100%.
want that. I want that line of communication to ever cross their mind to where they can't call me. And so that's one big goal, man, is to hopefully have that relationship. And I think it starts with communication.
Same thing. Exactly. And so like my dad, he didn't know his dad. He passed away, I guess, when my dad was young. So, but he had a ton of siblings. You know what I mean? Like I got a shit ton of aunts and uncles and stuff like that. But, I think I want to do stuff a little different. Not saying that, my situation was bad or anything like that at all. But, I think it's just, I have my way. I want to try to do things.
No, mad respect for that. And I think just having the awareness for that too, man. I think to just be able to say, here's how I want to do things. Here's what I think would be best. Because so many people, they don't even think about it. They just keep on. It gets passed down. They don't think about it. It's just like, here's what I saw. Here's what I know. They never dissect it. They don't look at it from that other angle. It's just
you should do it this way. You should have done it this way. And like, dude, the whole thing, going back to just like listening, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I still wouldn't. I have no problem. Would have no problem telling them up to the certain point of like, hey, you need to do this, obviously once they hit that age and that point to where I can't tell them what to do anymore. Like, this would be, my recommendation, and sometimes, dude, I had to live and learn. I've done a lot of dumb shit, and that made me who I am today,
I'm proud of you too, man, because, I think it's a lot to go through what you've been through. Obviously, I don't know a ton of
Thanks,
aside from the difficulties, with your daughter, but man, good people see that, man, and I think that's what's awesome about kind of like a brotherhood thing is whether we have a lot to offer financially or what, like that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like we want to go to war for the people we care about. We want to go to war for the brothers, for the good ones, man. And so I think if you can get a solid support system like that, man, even if it's 2 to 3 real people that they have your back no matter what, like you can't put a price on that, man.
Nah, just building that foundation, man. Like I've got so many people that I've met through doing this stuff, and I'm sure you have too. That's like, and they're everywhere. You know what I mean? Like you're not running into them down the street. That's like, I ran into one dude. We kind of set it up to be that way. A guy I met out of Kentucky, met through a mutual guy, and everything like that. When I started the Dad's Little Warrior stuff, they come up here once a year for one of their daughter's appointments, to the hospital that we go to. And he was like, he actually has been on one of my podcasts. His name's Josh. He's from Kentucky. And he's like, hey, bro, I'm coming up there. You're going to be, I'm like, dude, I'm up there twice a week. Like, if you guys are going to be here Monday and Friday, I'm like, I will be there.
That's awesome.
I want to be, I want to meet you in person instead of just on the phone and all that stuff. And it's just like some of the stuff, man, that you get to do once you start reaching out and like, just like you, man, like I loved your stuff online and I reached out to you and shit. That's kind of like that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah, man. The support, man, it's everything, and we keep circling back to it. But I hope that, when dads hear this, that they know, whether they have a good support system or not, that this is, like you said, a huge foundation, I think, to the success of being a good man, of being a good father. Because it starts with the foundation, man. And if there's a crack or there's, it's not on solid ground, like that foundation, it's going to crumble, man. And, you can't build on top of that. And it just starts with good people, good across the board, and then you build up from there, man. So I definitely resonate heavy with that. What are some of your biggest struggles with being a dad, or like what are some of the things that you feel like really just kick your ass sometimes?
I'll break it up into 2 parts because the two are totally different. My first daughter that I had, It was the dad guilt, man. It was the working hard, running my business, working late. I love the time I got with my daughter and my wife when I finally made it home, man. But like the dedication of me with my business and how it's always been since I started it and got it. The missing out on shit, man. I was a working, operating, not solely, but very small business to where I had 2, 3 guys at a time working for me that I needed to be there for it to run. And in my opinion, that's not really a running, working business.
Yeah.
That's just me working for myself. So that was a big struggle, and I didn't think it was going to be an issue. I didn't think that I was going to have a problem with it. I thought I'd be able to separate it, and it was a lot harder than what I thought it was when you're talking shop rent and equipment and fees and everything. It's just you see all that money having to go out every month, and you got to make it over, to pay bills also on top of the shop stuff. So that was my big struggle with our first daughter. And then the second, everything was a struggle. When everything happened with her and she was born and wasn't supposed to make it and everything like that past day 4, like it just, man, like everything blew up. And I'm like, and going back to my first daughter, when this happened with our second daughter, she was in the NICU in the hospital for like almost a month. It was like 27 days.
Jeez, man.
And, we were so kind of like brainwashed with what happened that we made the decision to stay 24/7 in the hospital with our daughter that was, fighting for her life. And our other daughter was like 18 months old at that time.
Wow.
So we missed out on all that time with her.
Yeah, that's
dude.
tough, man.
And dude, it was, crazy story. I'll kind of jump into this, versus going a little further into that. But my mom had our other daughter, our older daughter, and while we were in the hospital, and she brought her up to play. They had, like, she wasn't allowed in my daughter's room that was, trying to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this little room called the Ronald McDonald Room where kids could go in and you could visit and play with them and then, all that stuff, but they weren't allowed back in the hospital room. So we were sitting there, we were playing, and my mom was getting ready to take my daughter back home. And I was like, all right, my older daughter's name's Lulu, and Lucy's my youngest daughter. I was like, all right, Lulu, come over here, baby, let's just change your diaper or whatever. She goes and she's running across the playroom, trips and busts her nose right on the freaking heat register on the floor.
Jeez,
just
man.
Blood.
Yeah.
Fucking split everywhere. And I'm like, my one daughter's in there fighting for her life, and my other daughter just broke her fucking nose.
What, I don't know, what's the best thing about being a dad for you?
Oh, man. So
that's a loaded question probably, but
it is. That's a big one. Man, just trying to take, honestly, I never thought I was going to be a dad. I could have went both ways with it. I was never just like, growing up being like, man, I want to be a dad. I'm going to be the best dad. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing I want. So yeah, I got a late start. I was probably, I don't know, man. I'm 38, so I was probably 35 when we got pregnant. We did IVF with Lulu, my oldest one. And I kind of hit a point, man, to where like my wife and I kind of built up this, this lifestyle. That we worked hard, we played hard. We had everything, but we had a missing piece, and it was kids. Like I've said it before. Like I said, I never wanted to. My biggest thing was I didn't want to purposely bring another kid into this world the way that it was. Like I was just, there was so much chaos and everything in this world. But then I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, you know what, man, why not try to bring up and raise kids the way that I think that they should be raised? Whether it's right or wrong, everybody's different, but respectful, tough, those are like my two biggest things.
Yeah.
I whether boy, girl, whatever, you have to be tough and you need to show respect.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I live by with it. But yeah, man, I mean, I think just I kind of take a little bit of pride in having girls that are I'm gonna push to be the best that they can be and show that, like, there's no, the guy girl thing, like, it is not really a thing in my book. I treat my girls just as if I would treat if I had boys. They're going to be different. I know that they're going
Yeah.
to have different quirks and do different things and everything. But they're just people, man. You know what I mean? They're little people, and I think my what I enjoy about it most and what I look forward to is just raising them the way that I think that, a little bit of old school, actually a lot of old school and a little
Yeah.
bit of new school.
Yeah.
That's kind of the
I
way
dig
that I plan it. Whether it works out that way or not, I'll
Yeah.
let you know here in a couple years.
Check back in,
Yeah, dude. But I mean, that's kind of the coolest thing that I can think of is, like, I've done a lot of different stuff, man. Like you said, you were into boxing and stuff like that. I grew up, doing karate and then got into MMA, for a couple years. Nothing pro or anything like that,
Yeah.
just training. Um, and I love that, working on trucks and doing stuff. Like, I just kind of want to hand them this toolbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to give them all these little tools and just watch them build what they want to be. Man, what do you see? What do you see in the future for the Dad Compass? Like, what's your main goal? Um, is it like anything beyond, what we've kind of already talked about, or?
Yeah, I guess there is a bigger picture. Ideally, I would love to scale this thing to where, or at least there's a part of it that is the Dad Compass experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working on some stuff this year. I'm doing like a weekend camping retreat. One of my best friends, he went to school for outdoor leadership and all this stuff, and he's always been big into that thing. Just to start doing more stuff like that, more hands-on stuff with Dad. So I've got that in the works for like a fatherhood building experience, essentially.
Nice.
And then
Yeah.
I'm at a boxing gym here, and I'm working with my coach to do kind of like a little boxing seminar and then like a father building thing. So grand scheme is to like be able to do events throughout the year, and maybe even
Hell
eventually
yeah.
like start doing some, I don't know, some retreat / different just father building events where, like, 20-30 people
Dude.
sign up or something, and kind of just do this whole thing, and to do small groups within that, and to just connect dads, and just like kind of just take this out to the streets, if you will. I do a
Hell
couple
yeah,
like
dude.
pop-up events and meet a lot of great people. And the cool part, at least where I'm at, I'm like the only dude vendor aside from like
Okay.
food. So
No
that's
shit.
what's cool.
Yeah.
So when, at least from like a selling stuff standpoint, that's always fun, because the girls are shopping and then they come to my table like, oh wow, there's something for
Come
my
on.
husband. And
Yeah,
so,
man.
but then sometimes their husbands are with them, so I get to talk. I get to meet, like, I met several new dads last year who or expecting fathers, and
Isn't
so
that
yeah,
cool,
just
dude?
dude, it's
That's
the best
super
thing in the
cool.
world, and to just to plant a seed with them, and give them some encouragement, and just to make them, because the focus is, I mean, rightfully so, it's so much on the mother, but it's like,
It is. Yeah.
the father, it's a big transition too, man. But yeah, that's kind of the big scope, I guess, is to just make, take this thing to, like, Dad Compass, the Dad Compass experience. And I'm never gonna sell out. I'm never gonna get it to a point to where I could be bought out or something like that.
Sure.
It's always gonna have the
Yeah. And I run into it all the time, man. Even on, like, my last episode that I just did, one of the dads, like, a couple of times, like, man, I kind of feel like a shitty dad, for this, when he would go into detail and everything like that. And I'm like, man, like, it sucks. And we all feel that way. At some point in time, sometimes, you try to keep it as low as possible, not
Mhm.
daily, but,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, man. We process things different. We think about things different. And, I know, like, I want to be the best dad that I can be.
Yeah.
Am I perfect? Absolutely not, man. there's a lot of things that I feel like I could probably do different, and you learn from it and roll with it. But
Yeah.
I think, I know like my biggest thing is, and I love hearing you saying it, is to make sure people, dads know that they're not alone, man.
Yep.
And you don't have to talk about it all the time. You know what I mean? Like it's just the reminder. Like that's why I love like your stuff on TikTok, is because like there's so many dudes out there that feel that way. I mean, I go through it on this podcast all the time, where guys are like, man, that's exactly how I feel, but I just don't know how to say it, or they might not want to say it. It's that vulnerability. Which, dude, like I don't care. If I can help anybody out there, that's why I do the shit that I do.
Yeah. I think I think one of the biggest challenges for me, I guess kind of two things. I realized that I couldn't leave my family, if I was still being led by my wounds and what I carried. And so that was kind of a big part of that growing process. But also too, like once I reached that point, I just think, like you said, a lot of dads, they don't know how to talk about it. And so, and that's what I love about what you're doing too. And I think the rawness and the platform that you're creating, I think is so important, because I think a lot of times, I think to kind of go into like a generation perspective, I think communication, there really was no communication. I think it's kind of cool, because I think we're finding this happy medium of, learning to discipline, but also to like talk and communicate as well. And I think that's kind of the superpower, because kids still need to be disciplined, right? But I think that's why it's so hard for kind of the older parents like us, or kind of like our generation, is just we weren't modeled communication skills. We weren't modeled like by not saying all, but most dads in our shoes, again, from our generation, I just don't think they know how to communicate. I don't think they know how to be vulnerable. And I think that's the meal ticket, because once you learn to communicate with other dads, with your wife, friends, family, you also are able to communicate with your kids, and that's the key.
100%, man. Yeah, and I always like think about, like, it sounds kind of stupid or whatever, but like, you just see a random dude at the gas station walking by, like you really don't know what that dude's been through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like us as dads and dudes try to hold shit together, and we don't show that. We try not to show that. We don't want our kids to see that. You know what I mean? And, sometimes we don't even express it to our, wives or girlfriends, or whatever, anything like that. But at the end of the day, man, you don't know what somebody's going through, and I could see it in myself, of like me going somewhere and just, beeline and getting what I need to get and getting the hell out of there.
Yeah.
You don't know what that person's been through. It should be, it needs to be known. That's the way that I feel. I'd rather it be talked about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not daddy's little girl anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm going to know my boundaries when it comes to their family, and like respect their family as a whole, and not just her. Like, that's a good way to get shit canned.
Yeah.
When, you don't respect the other, the family as a whole, instead of just the one person.
And you hear about all these like horror stories about the in-law thing, and like, it is a touchy subject, but it's just like, if you have a level of respect, and like you understand that, it's just like, do you not realize that you would have more of an influence? Like, let's say like letting go of that control thing is just so hard. And the idea of like, I get it, man. I can't even imagine when that day comes, especially for my daughter. Like, but it's like, wouldn't you want to be, respected, and like be able to at least be in the circle somehow, and maybe influence, than just
be a part of.
It's just like, it's going to happen eventually, especially when they have kids. You're going to get cut off.
That's the goal, man.
It's just like, if you want to be in that lifelong thing, it's just like, you got to respect eventually what they, the family that they start later on down the road. Trust what you've instilled in them. It's just like, take that back seat, and just like, all right, come back to the kingpin when you need it. It's just like, I'll be here in my chair with my cigar. Like, you need to talk, roll up, we're going to talk about it, and here's here's what the old man had to say, you know, and that's how I picture myself later on in life, is to hopefully be that kind of stoic person that, you know, is just like, go back to this guy and like, okay.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to Dad's Little Warriors Dad Talk. Man, this is season 3. Get some great dads on here, and it was an honor having Wes on here, man. The both of us are trying to do huge stuff for dads, and I love what he's doing. I loved hearing about everything, how he started, what he's got going on, and where he sees himself in the future. So, really appreciate you coming on, man. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me, man, and big shout out to everything that you're doing too, man. Just stay the course. You know, you're making a difference in people's lives, and you know, this is what dads need. So definitely respect what you got going on, man, and thank you so much again for having me on.
Hey, man, it was my pleasure. Well, thanks, guys. Tune in next Monday night for Dad's Little Warriors Dad Talk Season 3.